Welcome back to Anyone Can Code. In the last video, we saw how to install Python and get started with the basic commands. Today, we'll tackle three topics: variables, types, and arithmetic operations. Let's get started. So what are variables in Python? A variable is an element that can store data. If we want to create a variable, we can start by naming it. For example, here we can say x equals 2. Our variable's name is x, and the value we give it is 2. A variable can also be a full word or full sentence. Variable equals 5. Variables can also contain underscores and even numbers. My variable number 1 equals 13. An important condition to name a variable is not to include spaces in the name. If we think of variables as containers that store information in Python, the question that we can ask is what kind of information we can put in these containers. The answer to this question is related to types. We can store data of different types. The main types we'll talk about today are integers, floats, strings, and booleans. Let's start with the first type. Integers, or int in Python, is the type that includes all the numbers with no decimal parts. That can be negative or positive, like -3, 0, 1, 302. The second type we should talk about is float type. The float type contains all the integers plus all the numbers that have a decimal part. -5.1. Even 2 is considered as a float because 2 is equal to 2.0. Third type is the string type, also called str in Python. So a string is basically a text between two quotation marks. So a string can be anything. It can be hello world that we saw in the previous video. It can be my name. It can even be a number, but seen as a text. So if we put it into quotation marks, a string is mainly a fragment of text. And the last type we'll see today is the Boolean type. Boolean type, also called bool, that takes two values and only two values, true and false, nothing else. So the value of the Boolean type is to test some conditions when we want to apply some operations. If we want to check if a condition is valid or not, we can ask if it's true or false. Enough with the theory, let's get to practice. Let's go back to our Visual Studio environment and open, like we did last time, the Python scripts folder. And click on this icon here to create a new file. Let's call it course1.py. Let's create our first variable that we're gonna name x equals 2. If we use the print function we saw last time, we can output the value of x. If we now try to run the code without the print function, we will have nothing outputted on the terminal. But if we add print x, hit save and run, we can see the value of x. An important thing about Python is that we can initialize a variable like we did x equals 2, and we can also modify this variable. Let's say x equals x plus 1. This will add +1 to the initial value of x. So if we run here, we'll have the value 3 for x. We can also change definitely the value of x and the type too. So let's say x now is equal to -3.45 and hit run. Now x is equal to its latest value. Like we previously saw, a variable can also be a full name, like my variable _1 equals, and we don't have to always give it numbers. As we said, we have four main types that we can use. We just saw integers and floats. We can also use strings. Hello guys, and then print my variable 1. The last thing I want to show you is this Boolean type. So if I say my variable equals true without quotation marks, just true, and hit run, we can see that it outputs true. Let's focus more now on types. We say x equals 2. How do I make sure that this is an integer? Python offers you a function called type that you can use by passing the variable name into this function. So you can say type of x, print this, calling the print function, hit run, and this will actually tell you that the variable x is an integer. Don't worry about this class word here. We'll see it later on when we tackle the object-oriented programming. If we change the type of x, hit run, we can see it's a float. Let's say now x is equal to quotation marks 2.34. Hit run. it's now a string. And if we finally say that x equals false, it run, it's now a Boolean variable. What are the basic arithmetic operations in Python? Let's get started with the easiest one, which is the addition, marked by the plus sign. If you take an example, 5 plus 3 is gonna return 8. Next is the subtraction with the minus sign. So again, 5 minus 3 will return 2. We have the multiplication operation, which is marked by the star symbol. 5 times 3 will return 15. Next, we have the division, marked by the slash symbol. 5 divided by 3 will give us 1 point. And we have two special operators, which is the double slash that represents the integer division of a number by the other. So if we take 5 slash slash 3, it will return 1. Why 1? Because 1 is the integer part here of the division of 5 by 3. And the last operation we'll see today is the modulo operation, which is marked by the percentage symbol. So if you say 5 modulo 3, it will give us the remainder of the Euclidean division of 5 by 3. In this case, it's 2. Just to explain in 2 words, the Euclidean division of 5 by 3 can be written as 5 equals 3 times 1 plus 2. So this 2 is the one that appears right here. Let us now tackle the basic arithmetic operations we talked about. We're going to use comments here to have a better representation. So let's say example using additions. You can start by creating a variable called x5, then y equal 3. If we print x plus y, we can see here that it's 8. Let's do the same with subtractions. So example using minus operator. Here we say x minus y, click run. We have the 8 is still printed because it's still there. And then the 2 is printed to represent this print. We can next try the multiplication operator. It's going to normally be equal to 15. The division operator is equal to 1.666. Let's take a look at the integer division. So 1 is because it's the integer part of the division of 5 by 3. Last, the modulo operator is going to give us the remainder of the division, which is exactly 2. There are more operators in Python. We didn't discuss them all. I want you also to know an important operator, which is the exponentiation. If you want to do the operation x to the power of y, you can add 2 stars here, and it will give you 5 to the power of 3. That's equal to 125. Perfect. Let's take the following exercise. Let's write a code that outputs the Euclidean division of x by y. For example, if x equals 5 and y equals 3, the code should output 5 equals 1 times 3 plus 2. So the code should really use the values stored in the variables without mentioning the name of the variables in the final output. Let's start by defining our two variables x and y. Let's say x equals 5 and y equals 3. To represent this Euclidean division, we need 2 more elements, the quotient of this division and the remainder. The quotient is the integer division of x by y. So it's equal to x integer division y. Notice here that I didn't write 5//3 because I want this code to apply to any value of x and any value of y. This is why I'm going to use the variables x and y defined to write the code. And now let's create the remainder that is equal to x modulo y. Integer division and the remainder of the Euclidean division. Now, how do I output in this format the final result? We have to use here the print statement. Let's say something like print the result is x equals q. Now, I want to represent the multiplication by its real form, which is the x and not the star. So q times y plus r. Now, if we hit the run button, we will see the following statement, and this is definitely not what we want. We want to output the real values 5, 1, 3, and 2. How do we transform the string that is inside the print statement into a variable representation with numbers? Let's say I want to replace this x here by the variable x equals to 5. What I can do in the print statement is close the quotation mark, add a comma here, and close the quotation mark again. What I just did here is exclude the x variable from the text inside the print statement. This will tell Python to consider this x here as a predefined variable. Note here that you should make a difference between the variable x and the character x that is present in the string outputted by the print. Let's hit now run, and we can see that x has been replaced by its true value 5. Let's do this to all the other variables. If we hit run here, we will see the true result we want. The importance of Python here is to generalize this result to any value of x and y. If we modify x and write 7 instead of 5, and here write 2 instead of 3 for y, and hit enter again, the code will work for any value of x and y. We have the right value of 7 that is equal to 3 times 2 plus 1. For next time, I want you to practice by doing these two exercises. First exercise is to create a Python program that calculates the area of a rectangle by doing the multiplication of its length times its width. You should print the result using the format the area is equal to result. For example, if length equals 7 and width equals 2, your code should output the area is equal to 14. Be careful, this code should work for any value of length and any value of width, not only 7 and 2. The second exercise I want you to do is to create a Python program that converts a temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius degree. The formula is given here. So what you should do is create a starting variable called Fahrenheit and give it an initial value, and the code should apply this formula here and output the final result in Celsius degree. For 32 Fahrenheit, you should have 0 Celsius degree. In this video, we just saw how to initialize a variable, what are the different types of elements we can add into our variable, and how to do some basic arithmetic operations. The next video will tackle how to ask the user to input a certain value into the terminal, and we'll see the different options of the print function. Try to do the two exercises I gave you, and next time I'll be giving the solution in the beginning of my video. Thanks for watching, and remember, you have nothing to lose and a lot to learn. See you soon.